Hi, I'm Zach Smith from Route 113 Boat Sales. Today we're going to be going over your new Cobia 262cc. During the coronavirus situation, we're not going to be doing customer and employee deliveries. We're going to be doing these videos to help you get acquainted with all the switches, features, and functionalities of your new Cobia. So to start out, we're going to start with the battery switch panel. This is really where the day begins, here on the side of the leading post. Inside of here, we have 4 switches. We have a port start, a starboard start, and a house switch. During normal operation, these 3 switches need to be in the on position. You also have an emergency parallel switch right there. If you get on the boat and your house or your engine batteries are dead, just flip the parallel switch and you can jump one off the other. Below that, we have our power steering breaker, followed by, this is a breaker for all of our switches on the dash. Then we have our rear hatch breaker. Table breaker on this is not used. There's no bow table on this boat. Amplifier breaker, this is the stereo amplifier breaker, followed by the electronics breaker. This is for all the electronics we installed in the boat or run off of that breaker. Up top here, we have our 24-hour circuits, which on this boat is our stereo memory and our aft bilge. The forward bilge and the accessory are both blanks. Right below that is our windlass breaker. If your windlass stops working for whatever reason, and this little yellow tack up to reset it. Right below that, we have another blank accessory breaker. Moving around from there, we have our battery compartment. Inside of our battery compartment, we have 3 Group 31 gel cell batteries. All of the wiring is labeled, so it's really easy to figure out where everything is. Right here, we have our port engine start battery, followed by our starboard engine start battery, and lastly, our house battery. The house battery is charged via an isolator. The isolator breaker on this boat is located up above the charger. This is probably going to be difficult to see in the video, but it's right up here. It has a red tab that pops out. If you get a low voltage alarm on your Garmin, simply press the red tab back in, and it will begin charging the house batteries again. Also right here we have our Pro Sport 20 battery charger. This is a smart charger. There's a receptacle on the outside of the leading post. Keep this plugged in all the time. It measures the batteries and charges them accordingly. It's a good thing to keep the batteries up to charge. These things are $330 a piece. You want to maintain them. Above that we have our LeBrock seats. These slide forward and aft and have fold-down armrests that lock. You unlock them by pressing in the metal button on the side. Moving around to the helm from there. We're going to start with our switch panel. All the way on the left here we have our horn. One over from there we have our nav anchor lights. This is a middle position off switch. Up for running at night, back for anchored at night. Middle position off. One over from there we have our forward spreader light, which is the spreader light on the front of the T-top. One over from there we have our aft spreader light, which is our 2 spreader lights on the aft of the T-top. One over from there is another middle position off switch. These are your overhead lights. Up for white, lights up all the lights white. Middle position off, down for blue. Lights up all of the lights in blue. Middle position off. I get a lot of dead battery phone calls, and 9 times out of 10, one of the middle position off switches were left in the down position. One over from there, we have our cockpit lights. Cockpit lights are blue lights all around the boat, under the covering boards, in the bow, all over the place. It's going to be a little difficult to see during the day, but lights up the boat nice at night. One over from there, we have our compartment light. The compartment light on this boat is your bilge light. Coming one over from there, we have our live well. Flip the switch on. You're going to have a standpipe in your blue owner's bag that threads in to the bottom of the live well. Water will flow up and drain out that standpipe and circulate through there. But you do need to have the switch on and the standpipe inserted. One to the right of there, we have our freshwater washdown. Freshwater washdown on this boat is located in the starboard rear corner. There is a spigot, and you also have a sink inside the console. The freshwater tank must be filled. The fill is located in the center stern in between the 2 engines, and the switch must be on for the sink or the freshwater spigot to be used. One over from there, we have our raw water washdown switch. Raw water washdown is located under the port covering board, and you also have a raw water washdown hose in the bow. One more over from there, we have our port and starboard fish box pump out. These are a momentary switch, so you have to press and hold. Up for port, down for starboard, middle position off. Your fish boxes will not drain on their own, they must be pumped out. One over from there, we have our bilge pump. If the bilge pump is running, the light is on. Whether the float switch comes on or you turn it on, that light will light up. Next over from there, we have our blank accessory switches, middle position off, another set of blank accessory switches, and then our windshield vent, down to open, up to close, our windshield wiper, and our windshield washer. Windshield washer reservoir is located in the front forward storage compartment and needs to be filled. Coming down from there, we have our windlass. In and out, right there. Below that, we have our Optimus steering gauge. Turn the key on, the Optimus gauge will come to life. It will go through its boot up process. Once it does, it will give you rudder position, engine RPM, all on that screen. Coming over from there, we have our key switch. You have two keys here. One has a chrome cover, one does not have a chrome cover. The one with the chrome cover is an 832 key. That is your key number. Write that number down somewhere so that when you go to fire the boat up again, turn the key and it comes on. The black key is the same key number. With that key number, you can order more keys. Turn the key on, press the buttons to fire the engines up. Right above that, we have our trim tab indicators and our trim tab controls. It's probably going to be a little difficult to see behind the steering wheel, but you have indicators on both sides that light up. Press down, the lights light up. Press up, the lights come up. These will automatically reset when you shut the key off. Coming to the right of that, we have our Yamaha dual binnacle control. This has a trim on the side here, as well as individual trims right here. You also have two blue lights on this control box. To put the control box into free throttle mode, press that button so the blue lights start blinking, put the engines in gear, and now you can idle the engines up without putting the motors in gear. Come back to neutral, lights go solid, then next time when you shift it, you're actually shifting into gear. If those lights go orange for any reason, call me, there is an issue. Moving over from there, we have our Garmin VHF radio. Press and hold the power button to turn it on. Once you fire this up, we have our channel right there. Below here, we have three options. We have scan, PA, and watch. Scan allows you to scan through all the channels that are programmed into this VHF. If anyone keys up on any of them, it will stop you at that channel. Below that, we have our DSC button. You have to set your MMSI number in order to do that. So you would hit set here, and then enter your MMSI number in order to activate DSC. Coming on over from there, we have our high load broadcast. This allows you to switch between 1 watt or 25 watt transmit modes. 1 watt is for close by, 25 watt is for far away. Menu. On the menu, we have access to channel information, DSC information, and communications information. You can also enter your MMSI number by coming in a menu, going to DSC, going to My MMSI, selecting that and entering the number. If at any point you're in trouble and you need to call the Coast Guard, press the 16 and 9 button there and it'll automatically take you to the Coast Guard channel. If you want to roll through stations, use this knob. And if you want to adjust your volume, use this knob, press it in once and you can adjust your squelch. Weather band, press and hold the larger button. On your mic, we have channel selection up and down. We have 16 and 9 selection there. And then to key up the talk, press and hold the button on the side. Moving straight up from there, we have our JL Audio Media Master 100 head unit. On the JL Audio Media Master 100, touch the source button to activate the stereo. So starting here, we're going to go into AM. We know what AM is. No one really uses it anymore, but there is an option. One more over from there, we have our FM radio. You can seek by pressing and holding, or move 1/10 at a time by touching the button. Press source again, you can go over to Sirius XM. This is a Sirius XM ready stereo. You do still need an antenna and a tuner in order for that to work. Oops, turned it off. Touch source again, bring us down to USB. USB is located on this boat down inside the glove box there. Coming over one from there, we have our Bluetooth. If you want to pair your phone to this, follow the instructions on the screen, and you'll be able to set your phone up to Bluetooth. Touch the source again, go over to auxiliary. If you wanted to use the 1/8 inch port on the back of this, that's where you would do so. And last but not least, you do have a weather band, though you have one right below it here in the VHF radio. Press and hold to shut that down. Moving over one from there, we have our Yamaha 6YC information station. Right now we're in engine A, which gives us engine information, RPM, trim, water temperature, battery voltage, and oil pressure all on one screen. You can use the arrow key to move over one. This will bring us over to boat information. In boat information, we have our fuel level, our speed, our trip in miles, our total fuel used in gallons. Right above that, we have our flow in gallons per hour, and right above that, we have our economy in miles per gallon. I don't use this fuel gauge as my fuel gauge. I hit cancel, I come down to used, hit set twice, and then it will zero out your total fuel used. So for sake of easy numbers, let's say you put 100 gallons in it. That says 70, that means you have 30 gallons left. So reset this every time you put fuel on the boat, keep an eye on it, and you'll always be up to date on how much fuel you have. Coming over using the arrow keys, one from boat information, we have Combo A. In Combo A, it's a combination of your speed and fuel information. So you'll have RPM, trim, fuel, speed, economy, and fuel flow in gallons per hour. One over from there, we have Troll Mode. In Troll Mode, what you would do is hit set, you would put the engines to idle, and then adjust the engine RPMs up and down using the keypad. Not something I use very often, but it is there, it is an option. Arrow back over to engine information. You can also go in the menu on this and change background, change logs, check things. That's all in the foreground there, but primarily you're going to be using those 4 screens that I just showed you. And last but not least, moving up, we have our Garmin 8612. 10, actually, I'm sorry. I believe this is a 10. It'll take a minute to boot up. Just press and hold the power button in the lower right hand corner of the screen to boot it up. You have to agree here at the bottom. Touch the power button. Bring the backlight up. To access your backlight screen, touch the power button once and it'll enter the backlight screen. You can make it as bright or as dim as you want. And I'm going to change one more thing here. So touch the power button again. Color mode. I'll make that day colors. Back. So this is your home screen. Starting at the top here, we have our favorites. If you want to add any one screen to favorites, simply follow the instructions on the screen there. Coming right below that, we have Smart Mode. Smart Mode does not really apply in this application. What Smart Mode would be for is if you had 2 or 3 or 4 screens, you could program it so that when you hit fishing, something would happen on each screen. Coming down one from there, we have our charts and combos actually, which we're going to skip. We'll come back to that after we go through charts and sonar. In the chart screen, you have three options: nav chart, fishing chart, and 3D chart. Navigation chart is what you're going to use 90% of the time. So as we zoom in here to the Aswelman Bay, you will see that we have all of our depth shading. So deeper water is lighter colored, shallow water is darker colored. We also have all of our depth soundings, all of our buoys, all of our marinas labeled, and then as we slide offshore here, we can see the Bass Grounds, which is a local wreck, is labeled. It's not yet a waypoint, you still have to physically make it a waypoint, but it is in there. If you wanted to make it a waypoint, simply touch it and hit add waypoint in the top left-hand corner of the screen. At any point, stop panning will bring you back over top of the boat and center it. Going back to home, our fishing chart. Fishing chart is more detail and less detail than the navigation chart. So from an inshore standpoint, looking at the Aswelman Bay, it's all white. We lost all of our color shading, we lost all of our depth soundings inshore here. As we slide offshore, we have a lot more contour lines. Before the Bass Grounds was a nice white box, and you couldn't see anything. As you slide out further, you will see more and more detail and more contours. So, easy navigation chart for inshore boating, fishing chart for offshore boating. Again, stop panning will recenter you over the screen. One down from there, we have our sonar. We have 5 sonar options here. We have traditional, clear view, side view, split zoom, and split frequency. This boat is paired with a GT51 transducer. So in this screen, we have our traditional chirping sonar. This is our fish finder. Chirp technology works really cool. It fires out a barrage of frequencies, gets a response, and different fish will respond differently to different frequencies. Going back to home, we have our clear view. Clear view operates at 260 hertz or 455 hertz. This is a scanner that runs along the bottom, picks up every pretty little detail of what's down there, but because it's such a narrow band, it's a terrible fish finder. So use this for finding wrecks, structure, things like that. Side scan is exactly the same thing. It works exactly the same way. Narrow band out both sides of the boat, scans the bottom, picks up all your information. Let's say you wanted to mark a waypoint right there on top of the wreck. You can put your crosshairs on it, hit the waypoint button in the top right hand corner of the screen, and you drop a waypoint right on top of the wreck. So next time you come back to the wreck, you're not coming back to the area, you're coming back to the wreck. One over from there, we have split zoom. Split zoom, I do use this a little bit offshore fishing. I will zoom in on the top 200 feet of the water column because I don't really care what's below that. So I do use this a little bit for that application. This is your traditional chirping sonar just with the zoom. One over from that, we have our split frequency transducer. So you can run one side in a standard 135 200 hertz cone and then the other side in a chirp. One down from there, we have our AV gauges and controls. At the top left here, we have our Garmin Active Captain app. The Active Captain app is an app you can get on your cell phone. You can upload pertinent information like waypoints, tracks, courses, all that kind of stuff right into your app. Come down to the boat, connect to the boat's Wi-Fi networks, and upload it into the Garmin. You can also update your software from that app. Coming one over from there, we have vessel information. This is your heading, speed, position, and depth information. One over from there, we have our media. This is another way to control the JL Media Master 100. You can turn it on and off from here, and view, stereo, change channels, stuff like that. This has the ability to run FLIR night vision cameras, reverse cameras, all kinds of stuff. That would run through your video screen. Obviously, nothing's hooked up to this boat, but it could if you wanted to. Coming over one from there, we have a Garmin Verb 360 camera, and really the Garmin Verb camera system. The Garmin Verb is an action camera from Garmin. It is just like a GoPro. It's about the same price as a GoPro. It's a little bit more rugged than a GoPro, and no one knows they exist. Garmin has a tremendous product and a terrible marketing department, but you can pair it to your screen in that screen there. Coming one over from there, we have the Garmin InReach. The InReach is a satellite texting device. If you intend on doing any offshore fishing, this is a great thing to have. It's a satellite texter. You can pair it to your screen, you can pair it to your phone, and no matter where you are in the world, inshore or offshore, you will be able to send a text message. It runs about $400 bucks. I think the subscription is right around $30 a month. Really cool technology. I really like that. Moving one over from there, we have our Yamaha gauge information. We have all this information down here on the screen, but if you wanted to look at it, you could do so here. And then we have more engine information and fuel information don't really use these. The gauge down here is what you're going to use 90% of the time. Coming back up to our combos, you can set up as many different combination screens as you want here by hitting menu and adding a combo in any orientation that you want. Across the bottom we have our waypoints button, followed by info, which is our tides, currents, user data, all that fun stuff, and settings, which is all of our system settings. Mark at any point. If you want to drop a waypoint exactly where you're sitting, hit the mark button, it'll drop a waypoint right here. Press and hold the power button to shut it down. Moving to the front of the boat, up here we have our nav light front and center. There is a tab on the front of this. You must pull the tab down to release it, and then it pops up. Inside of here we have our windlass. One very important thing on the windlass: that chain, when you're not using it, must be hooked up to keep the anchor from free falling. Please remember to keep that hooked up. Also over here we have a raw water washdown hose that allows you to hose sand, muck, and mud off of the anchor. Right next to that we have pop-up cleat and a pop-up cleat. We have 4 bow rod holders, followed by a cup holder. We have our bow storage locker right there. We have a cooler on the front of the leaning post here. And we have index storage right there, along with your windshield washer reservoir. Coming inside of the console, we have a freshwater sink. Again, the switch must be on for that to work. Right above that, we have our breakers for our switches on our dash. If anything on the dash stops working, check these breakers. Behind my head here, we have the wiring for your electronics, your NEMA networks right here. All your wires run down here to this fuse block. More networking here. Last but not least, toilet. You need to, that button flushes, that button overboard discharges. As we move stern here, cockpit tow rail right there. The side of the leading post here, we have our extension cord plug for our battery charger. Just plug it in. You don't need to do anything other than just plug it in. Right above that, we have our switches for our rear hatch. Press and hold the button to raise the rear hatch. It'll take a second to come up. Once it comes up, you'll see we have access to our fuel water separators and all of our bilge. So inside of here, on this back wall, we have 2 fuel water separators. We have primer balls here. Not that you need to worry about them too much, but they are located right there. We have our power steering pumps here and here, along with our PCM for the pump control. On the side of this pump, we have a steering service valve. If you ever get into a situation where you have lost your steering and the pumps are not working, open that valve, straighten the engines manually, and then shut that valve. Additionally, down here we have our 2 bilge pumps in the stern center. Over here we have our Roll Tournament Series live well pump. That seacock must be open in order for your live well pump to work. Right over next to that we have our our port fish box macerator, and right in front of that we have our raw water washdown pump. That shares a seacock with your live well, and that must be open in order for it to work. Over on this side, you're not going to be able to see it in the video, but right here we have our freshwater washdown. Freshwater washdown runs off the tank right here, and that tank must be full in order for it to work. Coming around on the T-top. we have our outriggers. This tab must be up. Twist the handle to rotate the outriggers out. Twist it back for it to lock. Put that down to lock it from rotation. With that said, we're going to hop down, we're going to go over the engines, and we're about wrapped up here. Moving on to the back of your boat, this is your Yamaha F200. As you can see, everything's covered in plastic and there's not really a whole lot you can do, but a couple things you should know about. First and foremost, your break-in period is your first 10 hours of operation. During those 10 hours, you need to vary your engine RPM. That doesn't necessarily mean baby it, it means vary the RPM. So run for a little while, 3,000, 3,500, 4,000, 5,000, 4,500, just move it around. You do need to open it all the way up to 6,000 RPMs at some point during the break-in period, but don't run it there for an extended period of time. We really just want the engine to break in at the full RPM band, not just one speed. Dipstick is located right here, the yellow handle on it. The oil level should be between the two dots. Right now it's right there. It will fluctuate a little bit between there and there. As long as it's within those dots, there's nothing to be concerned about. Pop the dipstick back in. Underneath of this back plastic cover, we have our spark plugs. Spark plugs are a 200-hour service item. Oil changes, I should say, are a 100-hour service item. Your first oil change is going to be done at 25 hours. This is the most important service you're going to do on this boat. That's an upper and lower oil change, along with your primary fuel filter and your primary fuel filter in the boat. So your fuel water separator, your fuel filter, and an upper and lower oil change is all part of your 25-hour service. None of that will need to be done again until 100 hours or every year, whichever comes first. Your primary fuel filter is located right here on the front of the engine, easy to get to. It has a water alarm in it as well, so if that floats up and kicks on, you will get a beep, beep, beep at your dash, and it means you have water in your fuel. Coming around here, we have a mechanics trim on the side here. As we come down from there, we have our oil fill plug is right there. Our oil level plug is right here. We fill it from here until it comes out there. So service intervals, like I said, 100 hours for your oil change, upper and lower. 200 hours, we add spark plugs to that oil change. 300 hours, we add water pump and thermostats to that oil change. 400 hours, back to spark plugs. And at 500 hours, we begin to inspect the timing belt. All these stats are either 100 hours or a year. So 100 hours, 1 year, 200 hours, 2 years. We want to make sure the oil is getting changed and the stuff is getting done on a time basis as much as it is an hour basis. Coming around to this engine, because it's going to be a little bit easier to see. Right here on the side, we have our water flush out. This unscrews. And that's a great example. This is a garden hose washer. You can get a pack of them for $1 at Ace. Keep some on the boat because they are prone to falling out. It must be in there for this to seal properly and the engine not to overheat. When flushing your engine, unhook this, hook water up to it, run the garden hose for 5-10 minutes, shut the water off, do the next engine. Make sure you screw this back on here tight. Last but not least, we have our trim tabs. Trim tabs have anodes on them. All the anodes on the engine and the trim tabs are an as-needed service item. Replace them as they wear out. And then down there in the center, we have our GT51 transducer and our drain plug. Drain plug is currently located on the starboard rear lifting eye. Make sure that thread's in. Finger tight only on that. It has an O-ring on it. If you over tighten it, you'll flatten it out and it will break. With that said, if you have any questions, feel free to call 302-436-1737 or email myself or Joe, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your new boat.